Hi, you've reached the Talking Racewalking podcast. It's all about racewalking, of course. It's talking to racewalkers from around the world about racewalking. Join me, Noel Payne, an amateur racewalker in Canada, as I talk to elites, Olympians, record holders, masters walkers, and anybody who's out walking as fast as they can. Hi, so this is a section where I'd actually be talking to someone, a race walker. So this is where you can come in. If you know a race walker, you're a race walker, and you have an amazing story, I want to hear from you. So reach out, let's chat, let's get walking and talking. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Talking Racewalking. Today, I have got a guest on who I met virtually, and we actually get to see each other today. Welcome, Patrick, to the Talking Racewalking podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. And it's Patrick Doyle, is that correct?
Yes, it is correct.
All right. Now, I know in many areas of life and perhaps the etiquette is not to ask for someone's age, but if you're not at all uncomfortable, what age of a walker are we?
58.
58. Well, you look fit for 58, and I think you might have told me that as in our discussions. But so Patrick is a masters athlete, and he is out in my home province of Nova Scotia on the east coast of Canada. We connected through a love of walking. He was interested in sort of the sport of race walking. And Patrick, how long have you been walking now?
4 years, since COVID.
Since COVID, that's right. You sort of took it up as a thing. And folks, Patrick is a 58-year-old walker who he's not out walking. Well, I don't know how you started, but I'll just give them a description of your walking right now. He's not out walking to grab a coffee in the morning. He might do that. And he's not out sort of doing a casual 5K and calling it a day. Patrick, I've seen some of your walks, and you're putting like 20, 30, 40 kilometer walks in. How did you get into walking? You mentioned the pandemic. What were you doing before, and what made you start walking as a sort of form of as an activity or a fitness activity?
Well, try to speed this up. Before COVID, I've gone through several major surgeries, a brain that they actually found. So, having said that, I ended up with a disease called epilepsy.
Yep.
So I was told so many times I couldn't do so many things, which, realistically, it did stop me from doing some things. So I said, well, what can I do that won't stop me and feel free?
Yep.
And just when I started to feel that, then we get hit with COVID.
Of course.
So everybody knows that feeling. And then once the doctor had said here in Nova Scotia anyways, okay, it's safe to go outside, take in some fresh air. It's really good. So I started walking down the road. I walked about maybe 5K, and I was a little out of breath. And, I was doing about maybe 4 kilometers. I didn't even know how to do all that stuff either.
Yep.
The math stuff. And then before you know it, I'll fast forward right up till now, presently. So I went from doing 5K, maybe at 5-6 kilometers per hour, to I'm doing up to 30 to 40K, 24K. Just a lot of it is when I get lost, which becomes such an adventure. I meet all kinds of different people. And in Nova Scotia here, and Halifax particularly, or Dartmouth, a lot of hills. So it's just hills, and it's a great challenge. And so it's just that my mind is opened up, and I just feel so free that when I'm walking and I'm putting the power to it, I just feel so good that it's like no bars hold, and I'm off to the races, no pun intended. I just love it.
No,
Yeah.
it's quite evident, folks. I mean, uh, when Patrick first sort of reached out to me, and then I started seeing some of his posts and the distances you're putting in, and Patrick now is sort of power walking or more casually walking fast. He's playing around with race walking right now, but he is not walking at a slow casual pace. I mean, you're in that sort of 8 to 9 minutes a kilometer when you're going for a long walk. That's really pushing it. Um, Usually it's somebody who's really power walking or race walking with, with a certain technique that they're able to push it that faster. So just going out for a walk and you're pushing yourself for that long, it really impressed me. It goes back, it's sort of, I wanted to have you on as well because really race walking at its heart, going back to its early history, really had people going out and covering those kind of distances and more, and doing super long distance. That's really where race walking started. It's not about, a kilometer and a half or 5 kilometer races. The Olympics used to have a 50K, and that's still a small distance compared to, some of the 6 day races, or they do walk across, the country. So you really are like some of the original walkers, just going out and walking for a long time. It's really impressive. Um, what made you interested in sort of the power walking and race walking aspect of things? What intrigued you about that?
Well, what intrigued me, well, for first off, um, there was again another challenge, and then when I heard, like, correct me on the last name, please.
Sure.
When I heard about a gentleman named Philip Festi.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Who's moved down to the East Coast. Yeah, Phil Vesti. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I didn't mean to get his last name wrong.
Oh, good.
Um, so I heard about him last year, and then that's when I heard about race walking, and then I started Googling and finding out more. Than I seen that there's a technique to it, and then that's when I started talking to Mr. Noel Payne. Yay! And then was more educated on it, and then all the information that you were sending me was just like gelling. And then the more I started doing it and learning it, like Race Walking 101, and actually started following the steps, it just became, my muscles weren't sore like power walking, where I was really struggling and just, going full out. But with the race walking, it was, the technique, you know, pushing my back heel off, because it was just in my mind in the beginning, one foot has to stay on the ground at the same time, yada yada. When I read it on Google, and
Yeah.
then after learning that from you, then it was like, oh, okay, now things are feeling much better. Then I could feel myself even actually picking up speed.
Yeah.
It was just there, but yet I was still the same person,
Yeah.
same feet, same heartbeat, but yet the glide was much smoother.
I love it. I mean, and it really connected with me because I really too do. I mean, I know there's a lot of elites out there that put lots of big miles in and stuff like that, but I mean, you're regularly going out and doing long walks, and most of us don't do 20, 30 kilometer walks. Maybe like once a week is a long one, but you're putting some long stuff in. And it really does remind me of some of the early guys that were out walking long distances. That's what they did. Some of the early pedestrians were, putting in long days, and they may not have been using the really modern race walk technique, but you're probably very much like them, just going out. You love it. You like being out there. And you're just like going long. I love that. Whether you compete or not, I just love the fact that you're enjoying it. So what was your last walk? Tell the folks about the last walk you did. Where did you go from?
Well, I left here in Bedford,
Yeah.
Nova Scotia. That's where I live. So my intention, it was minus 19 yesterday morning.
There you go, folks, in Canada. So he's out walking too when it's bloody cold. So minus 19 Celsius. Okay. And you're heading out from Bedford. And then how far were you going? Were you planning to go?
Well, my plan was to go to the head of St. Margaret's Bay. So, but yet I knew right off the bat that that was not it. Because I'd done that before. I went to St. Margaret's Bay, did a return trip, which was 10 hours and 55K. So I was coming back in pitch black dark, and which was great. So I knew this time around, because after I did the 45K or what it was, the hovers from Bedford, I said, I want to go to Peggy's Cove to walk. Not that I've never been there driving, because I love the place. So I said, I know when I get out to the head of St. Margaret's Bay, what's next?
Gonna
I
keep
knew it
going.
all along. I knew it. Because once I got there, I just said after I took the selfie, I know there's a lighthouse here somewhere. Off I went down Peggy's Cove Road and knew it.
So how far did you get in? I know I don't think you quite made it to Peggy's Cove, but how far did you get?
Well, I made it 5 kilometers from Peggy's Cove. I was in Indian Harbor.
Oh, so close.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, when I put down that I ran out of gas,
Yeah.
I guess I was kind of falling on my sword, but that wasn't correct. It was two things. First and foremost, my battery in my phone was almost dead.
Yeah.
So I took the music out because I figured I was kind of looking at this is a bad simile scenario, the Apollo 13. Let's get rid of some amperage. Save the battery.
Yep.
So there went Def Leppard. And I was saving the battery. And I never had a watch to let me know if it may not have, that I only have 5 kilometers to go. But I know the area.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, I know up over that hill, the schools are there. And then from there, I'll see a lighthouse. So I was that close. But I had to make the right call to call my wife, come pick me up, because I wouldn't have had a way to call anybody.
Right. Exactly.
I'm on this windy, sorry.
No, I understood completely. Did you get about like 35K in, or was it more that you got in?
About 34.2, that Strava app.
Yeah.
And we know that sometimes without the watch, from what I understand, that may not be as accurate as a watch, perhaps. My friend who's a runner, my neighbor actually, and an engineer, needless to say anymore, he follows me on Strava. So this time around, after I'd done this short little walk, pardon me, for the race walking test that I've done myself down at the 5K Cafe, and I think I did I thought it was 5 kilometers, but I was in the wrong place. 2.89 kilometers, bear with me on the math. And I did 2 minutes, 7 seconds per kilometer per minute, something like that. So I don't know any of that stuff. I'm more the tea and something guy. I can drink a cup of tea. I just go. So this time around, I did, I had a 30-minute break. I stopped in Tantallon. So I don't know what that distance was on the way to the lighthouse. I just go, and just boogieing, dressed in lime green from head to toe. If someone runs me over, they're colorblind. Anyways, I can say that. But I stopped for a 30-minute break, had a coffee, had a pee, got out, went back down, kept going. So when I got to Indian Harbor, I was around 31.4, 32. I'll just say 32. And it was 7 minutes and 1 something seconds. It's not that Strava app, but it was 7.1 minutes, something like that. But I did it. It was just on par with what I did the race walking that day. The race walking technique I tried to do, because the technique wasn't down. There's no doubt about it. But it was not race walking that I was doing, because the reason I knew my muscles, especially in my front leg, I could notice the difference.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That I had to use my legs, where one had to be up straight, the other back. The heel would push off for the thrust. And I also noticed a good thing: my hips weren't sore. When I'm power walking, there's no technique. It's just go,
You're driving,
just driving and act near and now I'm so used to it. It's like yesterday, I was just numb. My whole body, mine is 1920, especially going around the Atlantic Ocean. It was just wind. But here in Canada or down the East Coast, we're all used to that, especially Muscadaba Harbor.
Oh, exactly. I know all these places. So Patrick's talking about places I grew up not far from where he did. I grew up in Halifax and Dartmouth. I know where Bedford is. So this is on the east coast of Canada, folks, and it's cold enough in the winter. And Patrick was walking along the coast. The Atlantic Ocean is not warm to start with, and in the winter there is a well, let me just describe it. It's a slightly cold breeze that blows off the water every once in a while. So that's a pretty tough walk. So, how does your wife let you out the door to do these crazy walks? I mean, she logged you in for this podcast chat. How does she let you out? What does she think of your walking?
Well, she thinks it's great. Now, I
Is
can't
that
speak
now is
on
that
be
because you're out of the house, or is that because she thinks it does some good?
thank you. You hit the nail right on the head because I didn't want to speak for all men, right? But I'm sure all wives or women would agree because my wife's an advocate, rug hooker, knitter, whatever, but she's get out of my hair kind of. And after 30 years, and I don't have the best memory, as we were talking earlier. When I sailed in the Coast Guard, just a quick one, I don't remember holidays, but one day I forgot our wedding anniversary. I'm
Oh.
walking up the gangway, and Susan says, "Excuse me." I said, "Yes, sweetheart." She goes, "It's our wedding anniversary." The bosun on the ship said, "I'm out of here." So those things there after 30 years, you know, I go to the dollar store and I bought her a birthday card because I forgot the next day was her birthday. I said, "Well, it's all this open." And it's not going to be a Hallmark card. It's going to cost me $10 or $19.
So what does she so when you walk out the door, do you let her know where you're going and then she'll kind of like pick you up when you're done? How does that work?
It works uh, that yes, she knows which direction I'm going. Like I'll say, well, I'm like yesterday, for example, I'm going to the head of St. Margaret's Bay. My wife knows me well enough that that's not going to be the fact. That when I get there, I'm going further.
So
And reason being,
she's used to the crazy. I mean, I understand too, because it's the same here. I mean, our crazy becomes normal, but I mean, most people go out for a walk and they'll be like, I'm out for an hour, and you're out for like 5, 6, 10 hours. That's impressive.
but the adventure is so great meeting people. Like I walked from my place here, and I call it the Loop,
Yep,
which you go down uh, Gary Martin down to the Bedford Highway, and you know where Joe Howe Drive is.
yep, yep.
So I walked the Bedford Highway and right up to the Joe Howe Drive, and there used to be a car dealership right there, Bob McDonald's or whatever. Now it's a Steel Chrysler or something. So I walked in there because I had to have a pee. So I had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Oh,
So I
yeah, I
went
know.
there, came back because I was looking for Carney Lake Road. In my mind, if I get on Carney Lake Road, I could just walk and then get to the lake because I knew
Yep,
my place was just up over the hill, but it wasn't that way. I went up Carney Lake Road because everything's hills. I get up there and I had to take Lacewood, which I don't go on Lacewood Drive.
yep.
And, you know,
I know where Lacewood
it's
is.
yeah. So Lacewood Drive to me, this is gonna be sarcastic. It's like laces in a sneaker. I don't go there,
Yeah.
you know. But I get up there and I was talking to a lady. Turned out, long story short, she did marathons and she goes, "So you're out going for a walk?" She goes, "You're obviously a walker." When I told her the distance, she goes, "But you're wearing sneakers." So to me, it was like, well, I'm supposed to be. But so she says, "Well, you go that way, point it down." I walked all the way through two sets of lights. And then when I got down there, I seen a buddy of mine's place, but I made a left, walked past, went under the 102, kept on going. And I met somebody else where I was lost. I was having a chat with them. So I guess in a way, I'm like the guy who is so old school. I still, when I'm driving, I'll go into a gas station, talk to the person behind the counter or
Yeah.
whoever's in there. I'm trying to get to hear from here instead of going on a phone and Googling. That's
Yeah.
even worse for me.
Well, I think that's kind of neat too, because you really are going on an adventure. It's not just you looking at your cell phone or looking at your watch. You're kind of going out there, not only walking, but kind of exploring what's around you, bumping into people. I love that. That's cool. More of us should be doing that. I think when you're staring at your phone or when you're completely oblivious to everything around you, I think you miss things. So I love that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I've had just briefly over the last decade when everything just was kind of like upside down, living in a bit of a box for a while because of the medical stuff. Um, when you meet someone who's like becomes really special that helps you in the dark moments, like him, and I met this guy. I used to do yard work for him. It's like karma, and I got a job off of Kijiji to come over, and the requisite was I had to be able to put a fence pole in the ground and it had to be level. That was it. No, and my job was to grow grass seeds for 3 days. So I'm like, who would want that as a prerequisite to grow grass? So it turned out, and it's not because who this person is, he owns IMP. I'm not sure if you ever heard of the country
Yep.
company.
Yep. Yep.
So his name is Ken Rowe. He's my mentor. So he's been helping me for the last decade. We email tonight all the time to see how I'm doing.
That's cool.
Yeah, and when we started out, we bumped heads, and it's not because of who he is. We just became really good friends. He wasn't the billionaire; he became the person, and we just. But he said to me one day in the yard, he said, "Well, do this." I said, "No, I'm not doing that." He goes, "I have 3,000 employees." I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" I said, "I'm not one of them." I said, "I'm just here to dig a hole." And I left. He goes, "You don't walk away from me." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, you're only paying me $12 an hour." This wasn't that long ago, but ever since then, no, we have become the best of friends. He's such a good-hearted person. I'm not involved in business, which I wouldn't have a clue about that stuff, which is great. And then there was one other gentleman. I owe credit to these guys. He builds long-term care homes,
Yep.
like the parklands and stuff like that. But yet he deals with people with medical conditions. His wife has epilepsy. She went through 2 brain surgeries. Ken Rowe's granddaughter has epilepsy. So there's that connection.
That's cool.
And you just never know, right? So it's just like we all just became close. And there was no rhyme or reason to have this out of the nowhere friendship and then yet just be so close. So he cares. So to have someone that cares, regardless of race, nationality, wealth, whatever, but they genuinely and sincerely care.
That's cool.
That
Well, and it
yeah,
goes back to that you're talking about like going for walks and meeting people. I did on my 40th birthday, I did a 100K run, and it was the same thing. I could have just run from one point to the other, but the way I worked it, I was trying to raise money for something and end up meeting people. And then they came out along the course, and it was just neat connecting with people, even if it wasn't, for a long time or whatever. But I think that those adventures are so much more when you bump into people and unexpected, or you stray off the trail, the type of thing. And
mhm.
that is really amazing. I love that. So you've been walking since the pandemic. You've moved up to some big distances. Um, your wife lets you go out and do these crazy long walks. Um, what have you got on your horizon? What are the goals for this year? What do you want to learn race walking is one thing.
Yes.
But what else do you have planned for the year? What other ventures do you have planned?
Okay. Well, in Hubbard's, that one I did from Bedford to Hubbard's. This was on my own initiative.
Yeah.
Was I walked on behalf of just awareness only for
Yep.
mental health and
Yep.
epilepsy. That was done. So in around the end of April, I'm going to walk from Bedford to Mahone Bay, which would
Okay.
be about 86, 90K.
That's about right.
So,
Yep.
and I might just push it a little more because I want 100. Okay. That's my goal is 100. If I go to Liverpool, 146. Oh, I'll get there. There's no doubt about it. I might go to Yarmouth and get the ferry and go to Maine. Might as well go on a vacation.
You better warn your wife before you go off on the big ones.
Yeah. So then after that, I'm already registered for the Blue Nose Full Marathon.
Right, right. Yeah, you mentioned that one. I have done that. Now that's not a flat course either for anybody who knows. So it's the marathon that starts in downtown Halifax, pops over the bridge, goes to Dartmouth, and the cities of Halifax and Dartmouth you're pretty much either going up or you're going down. There's not a whole
Mm-hmm.
lot of flat anywhere, so that's going to be tough.
Well, it's funny you mention that because I look at it this way as I do where I walk. I know spatial perception wise where I'm going. So I don't look at it as, oh, this is going to be tough. It's like, oh, I remember this place and memories. I loved it. Boom. So when I was looking at the map for the marathon, I'm like, I used to live there. Oh, my buddies and I used to hang out there. That's my mind.
It's another adventure for you. I love it.
Exactly. That's all it is. It's like I'm not seeing cartoons, mind you, which is a good thing, but it's all an adventure. It's like memories. So it's not a time thing. It's not like, damn, that's going to take long, and not seeing the horizon, not seeing the light at the end of the rainbow. It's just I know it's there. I can't wait to get there. The enthusiasm, like the just go, yay! I'm going to do it.
I love it. I love the enthusiasm, the energy you have. Um, so to round this up, what does race walking, what do you want to do in race walking? We've chatted about this a little bit. I mean, honestly, I think it's one of these cases where, from knowing you so far, I think if you pick up the technique, it'll just make your adventures, well, you can go faster. I think you'll enjoy the challenge and everything else. Honestly, I don't think anybody needs to compete. A lot of us are driven like myself for whatever insane reason to prove themselves or something. And I enjoy it. What attracts you to race walking?
A purpose,
Okay.
a purpose in life.
Okay.
Because again, going back to my medical stuff,
Yep. Yep.
which is history, that's all behind me. But I never had a purpose.
Right.
I couldn't do anything because I worked in the Coast Guard. I sailed for 25 years. I can't do anything dangerous
Yep.
except to myself, walk for as long as I want. So, but I never had a purpose. And it was just walking, walking, walking. And I loved it because it was just that freedom in my head that I can do whatever I want and be happy. But then when I was introduced to race walking and looked more into it from, you inspired me so much to look into this. And when I looked more into it, I was like, bam, there it is. There's something to do. Now I have a purpose to actually walk. There's a technique. There's a reason to do it. There's something going on here. And that's the reason why I'm going to race walk.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think and the thing is, I mean, I think like you, I don't think we're afraid to stand out. I mean, if you're walking for 10 hours in a neon yellow suit, I don't think you mind being noticed. I think I think you've got that part down pat. Most race walkers are a little nervous at times, but I think you're set up for it. I think the race walking community will welcome you. I know you joined our Facebook community, and we'd love to have you share stuff there too, because it's a small niche sport that not a lot of people know about. And it's a lot of fun. So I love seeing you sort of discover it and take it wherever you're going to take it. So I think that's really cool. And for anybody out in the East Coast who's listening to this in Canada, Phil Vesti has moved down that way. Great guy. Google the name. He has experience and everything else, and he's hoping to, I think, bring race walking to Nova Scotia, hopefully, maybe even some events out there in the coming year. So that would be really cool. I think he's put on a few clinics, I think, so far, but starting small. Because I think Randy, my friend Randy Bullerwell,
Yes.
he's part-time. He's down somewhere warm where I'm very envious of him right now, but he'll be back in Nova Scotia, so he'd be a great guy to connect with, and I'd love to see how you guys get along. So this has been an amazing chat, Patrick.
Yes.
I would love to touch base with you later on to see how your journey to race walking is going. Thank you for sharing it with everyone. And if you're in Nova Scotia and you see somebody walking to the side of the road and he looks like he's lit up in neon gear and he's boogieing along, that very well might be Patrick, and he might be out there for a few hours. So extend a wave to him, give him a shout, or stop by and have a chat, because I think he likes that kind of thing.
Oh, one last thing, Noel.
You go ahead.
Um, and I get something in my mind.
That's all right.
I want to walk to Ottawa.
Ah, yes, that's right. So Patrick is telling me he's going to walk to Ottawa. I have told him if he takes up that challenge, now I'm advising him maybe you want to set a train for it. It is a long walk, Patrick, and you may want to tell your wife perhaps that you are going to do it when you leave the house. But yeah, you got a place to stay here, my friend. So we'll be anybody. We'll touch base with Patrick in a little while, and maybe it'll be a podcast about his walk to Ottawa, and that would be amazing to hear about. Thank you very much, Patrick.
Thank you, Nolan. You're just fantastic and an inspiration. And man, you're awesome.
Look, I'm only awesome. It's like a reflection. So the awesome you're seeing is just from the people that I talk to. So thank you again, and happy walking.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great night.
You too. That's it, folks. The end of the podcast. No walkers have been harmed in the recording of this podcast. And of course, at the moment, we have no sponsors or supporters at this point to fund all this amazing podcasting. But if you're out there and have a race walk company that produces some sort of race walk apparel product or something you think race walkers would love, get hold of us. We'd love to have you on board. Give us a holler.